Welcome by this lecture on business models for EVs charging, part of the program Intelligent and Integrated Energy Systems. My name is Frank Geerts and I'm working for ILAT.nl, the Knowledge and Innovation Center of the Dutch grid operators in the area of electric mobility. Electric mobility. This time it is really coming. The reason being the Paris Climate Agreement of several years ago. There we agreed as world to limit the global warming by limiting the greenhouse emissions. And this means that we are radically going to change the way we use energy. We are going to electrify more and more. And electricity will be produced by renewable energy. No longer will be a fossil-based economy. And this has a huge interest for the mobility sector. When we electrify, we are combining huge worlds. The energy world, the electricity world, with the mobility world, but also the digitalization that is coming at the same time. So first have a short look at the mobility world, because this one is huge. If we look at Europe, we drive together 268 million passenger cars. We also drive roughly over 30 million vans and lots of trucks and buses. What would happen if we would electrify all those vehicles? In this lecture, we take a closer look at the passenger cars. And we take the Netherlands as an example. In the Netherlands, we have 8.5 million passenger cars. If we would electrify all those passenger cars, that would create a new energy demand of roughly 24 terawatt hours. So how much is that, 24 terawatt hours? Well, we can compare it to the total energy consumption of electricity in the Netherlands. And that is roughly 120 terawatt hours. So by just electrifying electric passenger cars, we would increase our electricity demand with 1/6, 16%. This number is quite comparable for the rest of Europe as well. As we will move to electric mobility in the coming 15 to 20 years, this will mean an annual increase of 1 to 2%. And this is quite manageable, because this is what we had as electricity increase over the past decades. But when we look at the power, the electricity you need at one certain moment in time, it's a different story. There we see that a passenger car is completely different from all other appliances when you compare it to the household. The peak demand an electricity car can create is the same as 10 households can normally create. So we say one car equals 10 households in peak demand. And the peak demand is the most important indicator when you design a power grid. So in the past we have designed our power grid for households and not for cars. If you look at the scale of the Netherlands, you see that if all passenger cars would charge at the same time, they need a power demand of 90 gigawatt. And the current installed base by power plants in the Netherlands is 30. So that means triple the current power plant installed base we have. And that's not something that we can integrate easily. There we have to become smart. So you can look at it as a car as a threat to the energy system. But it also is a huge opportunity because of the large battery that's in the car. In the near future, it's expected that a normal electric car will have a battery of 70 to 100 kilowatt hours. And 100 kilowatt hours equals 10 days of electricity demand of an average household in the Netherlands. So a lot of storage capacity. And knowing that your car is standing still for almost 22 hours a day, and you have a buffering capacity, this means your car is flexible in helping the electricity system. And this is needed because when we are moving to a non-fossil based power system, but a system based on wind and solar energy, we need to be more flexible on the demand side. Because in the past, the power plants followed the demand. But now, as wind and sun is coming depending on the weather conditions, we need to become more flexible on the demand side. And the whole energy system is becoming two ways as well. We will have waves of electricity, and those waves might travel the other direction because the solar panels are on your house. About 20 years ago, during the liberalization of the energy market, we set up a quite complex system to make sure that demand and supply were always in balance. Not only physically, but also administratively. And then we introduced the role of the balance responsible party. And this party makes sure that whenever he sells electricity to you, at the same time he also buys that electricity. And that needs to be in balance within a quarter of an hour. And this is becoming more and more complex as the supply side is becoming more and more volatile. And this requires for the demand side to become more and more flexible. And this is where your car comes into play. Well, to understand more of the challenge or the opportunity that a car provides, let's have some look at traditional energy flows in your house. Here you see a picture of a household in the Netherlands and its electricity demand. And its electricity profile usually stays within a bandwidth, a relatively small bandwidth. But when we add electric car to that house, you see here the yellow line. And that yellow line far exceeds the bandwidth which used to be common for a household. This is being the reason that the power of a car equals 10 households. So as we said, the peak demand of a car far exceeds the house. This is where you see it. Well, if you combine the house and the car also with solar panels, you get a production peak, of course during daytime, but you see that the power peak produced by the solar panels is far less than the power peak needed by the electric car. And if you also combine it with a heat pump, you see that the heat pump also requires quite some power, but still far less than the electric car. So the electric car is a real game changer, both from the power demand, but also with its opportunity of the large battery. And here you see it in a picture. We've taken several appliances that are common in a household. If you look at a washing machine, that requires only about, 1 kilowatt in peak demand. And you have relatively short buffering possibilities. Well, we have assumed here of roughly about 4 hours of buffering capacity. When you look at an electric car, it has that huge power demand, but also a huge buffering possibility. Because the car is standing still, and when it's connected to the electricity system, this is where you can become flexible. This is what we call smart charging. And in the smart charging guide, which you can download at the website of WIRRAD, you see a 4-layer model to explain how smart charging works. I recommend you to read that guide to get some more deep knowledge about it. But here I just show you the 4 layers. And the first layer is the technical layer, the hardware layer. That is the technology that is needed in your car or your charge station to make smart charging possible. Well, both those devices, car and charge point, are being connected to a central system, so you can control them. And how to control them? Well, that is where business models come in play. And that's the organizational layer. And what you can do with all your business models is sometimes restricted what is allowed by law. And that's the legal layer. Just have a short look at the technical layer. Because whatever business model you are pursuing, it always will end at either the car or the charge station. Because there is where the negotiation takes place about the time that the charge is taking place, at which rate, at which power it's taking place, but also in what direction. Because in the near future, we expect more and more so-called vehicle-to-grid cars that can not only draw electricity from the grid, but also give it back, because it's there in your battery. Now, what exact profile you want to send to either the charge station or the car is determined by an intelligence layer. And this intelligence layer can either be installed locally or it can be located somewhere in the cloud, because both devices were connected, as you remember. Well, to do some intelligent stuff, you need data. And that data is about what are your wishes as a consumer, but also what are the technical capabilities of your car. And to have that data being available to commercial parties is a hot topic at this moment, because that is the fuel for new business models. So let's talk about the business models. And of course, I can't answer that $1 billion question. What is the business model I should pursue? And in fact, I believe there is not just only one business model in the near future. There will be multiple, and they will coexist. This market is big enough to have several solutions at the same time. But you see some ingredients that you can compose when you want to talk about business models. And the first one is maybe not from electric mobility, but more from a general mobility side. Because we are moving more and more from an ownership society to a sharing society. So where you used to buy your car in the past, why not use shared cars? And if you manage a fleet of shared cars, this creates a business opportunity to integrate it to the energy market. But when we talk about self-driving cars that can be charged with induction wireless, this might create a whole new world. It may become the end of taxis as we know it. You just call for a car, it drives to your house autonomously and will take you to your destination. This might really be interesting for elderly people that cannot move that good anymore and don't dare to drive. It could be a big step forward for us as a society. But also car manufacturers have to rethink their business proposition. Are they selling cars? Are they selling mobility? Are they selling cars with some mobility services? Are they integrating with other mobility solutions? This is a key question for them. And you see the first step being taken that car manufacturers are offering charging services together with the car. You see them investing in the shared cars, as I just explained, but also with integration of the public transportation domain. And which solution is the best depends also on the location where you are looking at. If you're in the city center, it's less likely that you can park your car near your house. And such kind of combined mobility solutions might be of huge interest, and you just want that car for your long distance travel. But if you are living in the urban area, you might want to have a car more closely to you, and you might even want to have the ownership of it. Well, and for the energy industry, because this is what we relate in this program, these cars with those huge storage capabilities can really play a big role in the whole balancing of the energy system. First, to the business balance responsible parties we briefly talked about, but also when there is an unbalance, to get the system in balance again, which is part of the grid operator's task. Well, this is what a lot of people refer to as flex markets. A quite complex market that's also it's also emerging. And if you really want to get a business model out of that, I recommend you to get a deep dive in that energy system. So we see the first business models arising. I heard some talks about employers offering their employees to charge their car at work. And they say, well, your commuting distance, you can charge at work. for a reduced price. Or maybe as part of your working conditions of your contract. Well, you see also that you can get mobility platforms that are integrating services, a sort of Booking.com. You see the first traditional utilities offering flexible energy prices. So where you now have a contract where your energy price is fixed, usually for a year with a day and night tariff, the tariff for your electricity could be changed together with the wholesale market. And it's now being said that 90% of the time the wholesale market prices are lower than your contract prices. So you could wait and you can get such a contract to get cheaper charging. And for you as a business model, you can see whether you can relate it to each other. You see other propositions where people say, well, you get a discount on your energy bill if you allow me to have some storage capacity to trade on the energy markets. So you see the first business models emerging, and there's a lot more to come. If you want more knowledge about electric mobility and some prerequisites, I recommend you to go to the website and to the YouTube channel of Elaat. There's a lot of English language content to be found there. Thank you for your attention and good luck with the rest of the program.